stage to sofa. Today I am joined by a very special international bass-baritone. Having made his opera debut at the age of 26 with the Vienna Philharmonic at the Salzburg Festival, this incredible talent has continued to compel audiences with his artistry at the leading opera houses, festivals, and concert halls all over the world. It is, of course, the amazing and wonderful Luca Pisaroni. Luca, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So welcome. How are you finding this almighty transition that we've all been faced with? How are you coping?
It has been, a tough time, especially I remember in March when they canceled the Don Giovanni in Paris and we did only 2.5 days of rehearsal. Everybody was a little bit lost because we didn't know what is going to happen. And at the time, I remember that they said that nothing until the end of March. And now we are the middle of June and nobody has resumed performing. So it has been a wild ride. I have to say 2 weeks after the cancellation, I was at home and I was a little bit lost. I didn't know what to do with my time, to be honest. And it took me a while to try to, understand what I wanted to do and try to survive. Because if you don't have things to do, the time really goes by very slow. And I'm so used to rehearse and perform and take care of myself and take care of the fact that I have to be in a good shape that, I forgot how long the days are when you have nothing to do, too long, so it took me a while, but I think I'm in a groove and let's see when I'm gonna come back and, hopefully very soon.
Let's hope so, because it has been an almighty chunk of time, like you said.
It's interesting because somebody said to me, oh, take it like a sabbatical. And I said, well, normally when you take a sabbatical, you actually plan for it. It's not that they impose it over you from one day to the next. You make a plan and you say, okay, I'm having a very tough season with a lot of performing. And then I do that. And then, I take 3 months off or whatever. But this has been really, I don't like this idea of a sabbatical. Also, I always been somebody with a lot of energy and I am not a contemplative kind of guy. Doing nothing is not my thing. Let me tell you a little secret. It's like this, right? I go on vacation and for 3 days it's hell for my wife because I go, it is such a waste of time, nothing to do, it's so boring. And then I get into the vacation mood and it gets better and then your body relaxes. But 10 days into the vacation, I go, there is nothing to do. Vacation is boring. But, it's the problem with me is that I enjoy what I do so much that I don't see this as a imposition and as work. It's a much more like, a hobby. And so I am so happy with it that, that I can't tell you how much I miss performing.
I can totally imagine. I mean, you've been here, there and everywhere for years and years and years. And actually, talking about your early start in opera, I read that your lovely grandfather was the first person that introduced you to opera. Could you talk us through a little bit about how that unfolded and what that looked like? What did opera look like to an 11-year-old Luca?
Look, I have to tell you, I have very few memories of when I was a child, but this one, I remember, in Busseto, which is a small town close to Parma, the summers are excruciatingly hot. And so I remember being in the garden, I don't know, playing or taking care of some plant, I don't know, whatever I was doing. And my grandfather had this, it tells you how old I am, this music cassette, and he was listening to this collection of arias and scenes from Verdi's opera. And I remember hearing all of a sudden this "Ella mai mamo," and I remember going, "Whoa!" Because I couldn't believe that a human body could produce such a dark sound. Then I discovered that the singer was Boris Christoph, who had this very dark and specific color to it. And from that moment on, I thought it was the most amazing thing. You forward to 2 years later, and I went to l'Arena di Verona to see my first opera, which was Aida. And then I bought my first CD of Pavarotti. And from that moment on, I was just hooked with it. And I just knew that there was something that spoke to me, even if I was only 11 years old, and I always knew somehow that this music would be part of my life. I hoped to become an opera singer. I never dreamed to be able to, to have a career with it. But then eventually it happened, and I still can't believe it. I know that I'm 45 years old and I've been around for 20 years, and I still go to rehearsal and I perform like I'm like, can you believe it? I'm singing here, and it's a great feeling.
Oh, it's so amazing that you knew even at that age that it would be such a huge part of your life, and it says a lot about the artist that you've become as well. I think it's incredible that you have that such knowingness.
And I am sorry to interrupt you, but I'm lucky because my friends all had this period where what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to study? I never had that, to be honest with you. Never, ever. Because I knew I'm going to study singing, I'm going to study music. I knew. So I never had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And I don't know what to do with my life, now that I'm not performing, I don't know what to do with my life. But then it was clear to me.
Wow, that's so amazing. It really is, Luca. And I'm wondering, as you became a teenager, did you have any big influence in your life, an artist that you looked up to? And if so, how much did they impact the artist that you've become today?
Well, I had two idols at that time. I mean, one was Pavarotti, and for me, it was like there was something about the quality of the voice, the easiness, the way, the way that it came so natural to him, that I was just in love with this man, in love, and and I remember I went to his house in Modena when I was 16 years old, because a friend of mine knew him, and I remember I was drooling, and with the poor guy I went there with a backpack of LPs, CDs, books, and the poor guy had to sign my stuff for probably 20 minutes. But it was so charming, and it was so he always had this very nice way to connect with people, and I just loved him. And when he opened his mouth, it was just gold, pure gold that came out. Pure gold. I was in love with that voice. And then the other person that influenced me was Carlo Bergonzi. Carlo Bergonzi, because he lived in Busseto, and twice a year he had master classes in his hotel, in Due Foscari. And so I would go there to listen to him teaching. And it was, I could spend 4 or 5 hours just sitting there and seeing him going through the repertoire. And I tell you, it was amazing, because he was a great teacher when it comes to phrasing, how important is the words are, how to in Italiano I always say this word porgere, which means offer the voice, and I learned so much. I never got to work with him because I was not mature enough to actually work with him on anything. but just listening and just seeing how he approached the music really shaped me and shaped my idea of singing and how I wanted to be, to be working on my instrument, to arrive to one day to be able to, to say and to make every word that I'm saying clear to the audience. It was I still remember it. I still remember going there and the hours that I spent there. And my mother was furious because I wouldn't study. And my mother was like, always like, you left at 2, it's 7:30. And probably my poor mother thought I was doing drugs and alcohol somewhere. But in fact, boring, as boring can be, I was sitting, listening to somebody teaching about voices.
That's so amazing. You were studying, just in a different way that you didn't know.
Bravo.
That's so amazing. And you've sang now, Luca, at so many incredible houses, festivals,
yes.
concert halls. What has been your favourite debut? If you could pick one, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Oh, this is unfair to ask a question like this because, I live in the moment when it comes to roles and houses. So every time I do a role, I think it's the best role. And every time I go to a house, I think, great house. I love being here. So I can't tell you, but certainly Mazzetto in Salzburg in 2002, beginning of my career. I had been singing for a year only, and being in Salzburg, which is the, Valhalla of music, of the best festival in Europe, probably, if not in the entire world, with the best singers and the best conductors, and me being so young and having in the cast Thomas Sampson, Ildebrando D'Arcangelo, Michael Schade, Anna Netrebko, Magdalena Kozhina, Harnon Kur conducting, Martin Kujan directing, and me coming from Busseto and having had only two opera experiences so far, one in Klagenfurt, which is it's a small town in Austria, and the other one in the amazing metropolis, Wuppertal, in the middle of Germany. So, from there to Salzburg, I just couldn't believe it. It was like living a dream, and I have to say that experience really shaped me and made a humongous difference for me, because being put in a cast of such names with such experience, makes you work very hard and say, I need to step up my game not to embarrass myself. And this is something that I try to do. I still manage to embarrass myself, but at least I really realized that, that you have to work very hard. And the thing I always say to singers who finish their studies and they think, that's it, I'm done with conservatory or whatever, university or whatever, and the work is done. I have a news, my friend, for you. The work has just started, because you learn so much more being in a situation like this, where you are exposed to such level of artistry that you really have to go inside yourself and say, okay, let me look for the best I can offer. And that's a great feeling, because when it then works, you are very proud of the work that you have achieved.
Definitely, and what an incredible experience to have at such a young age. How did that look for you when you're at the side of the stage and you're about to walk on, and you've got these momentous names, as you quite rightly said, that were legendary? How did you cope mentally, and what did that sort of stage look like for you when you were at the side of the stage about to walk on?
I'm a shy person. And so I remember at the beginning, my stage experience were not great, because I was so shy, and I didn't know what to do with my body. I'm tall, and I have long legs and long arms, and so sometimes I was like, okay, now tell me what to do with this thing. But you know, it was interesting because I did a semi-stage version of Don Giovanni in the middle of Romania when I was a student, and I was always yeah, I was like, oh, fearful. And then one day for an orchestra rehearsal, I remember I said to myself, so what do you have to lose? If you embarrass yourself, you embarrass yourself. At least have a good time. And I really walked off stage, and from that moment on, it really changed. And I have to say, I am not terrified to go on stage. I'm nervous in a good way. I'm nervous because I care, and I'm nervous because I want to do well. So I try to channel my nerves into something positive. And I remember being in Salzburg. But the great thing about that production specifically is that it was this production where there was this white stage that turned. So, and this Madamina, which is the scene before I enter, had images. And so we were in a position while this thing moved. So I was on stage before, and I could feel the audience before I even had to start singing. So this has helped me going, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, I'm gonna die too. And now the audience is here, and don't embarrass yourself. And that was really very, very helpful, I have to say. And then, you know, when you turn and you see the Grosses Festspielhaus, and you have the Wiener Philharmoniker, and you saw Arnoncourt, and I thought, I mean, you know, it cannot be better than that. So, you know, do well.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I love that you're on a revolving stage, possibly fearing for your life at the same time. So, it's just so amazing. The whole experience sounds wonderful. And I'm wondering now, what does opera do to your soul when you sing? What do you feel when you sing and you're giving this beautiful audience in front of you?
Look, I feel, in a word, I feel complete. When I'm on a stage and I like the production, I'm into the character, the voice work, I have a great relationship with my colleagues, you know, and I can see that the audience enjoys it. It's just that's it. That's, you know, there is a very nice phrase in the Mephistopheles by Boito, where he says, "Arrestati, sei bello," you know, and it means stop because everything is perfect. And that's a little bit my feeling when I sing and everything works. It is such it's such an amazing feeling that I feel like I am flying and everything works, and I don't want this to end. So there is something about being able to communicate with my voice and to have this effect on people, you know, that I can make a joke on stage and I can make them laugh, or I can say something serious and I can make them gasp or cry. And this is an incredible power. And I know how, you know, important, and I have so much responsibility for it. But this is for me, is the best feeling. I feel like I was born to do that, to be somebody else, to tell stories, to use the words to open up ideas and images in the audience, you know, to move you with my instrument. It's just heaven. It's just heaven. It's just heaven. I had an interview recently, and I said, I know how hell is going to be. At least my hell is going to be a place where there is no music, because really, without it, it's just we are not the same. At least because through music and through this wonderful connection, we can feel and we can say something that sometimes we cannot express in any other way.
That really is so beautiful, and I really hope that soon you can start doing that again, because there's so many audience members that I know benefit from your openness and honesty on stage. So hopefully,
You know,
fingers
and there
crossed,
is
it won't be soon.
and you know, and there is nothing better. I always say, it's just if you don't do it, if you don't experience it, you can't understand. Like I remember I was in Salzburg doing Count, and I was supposed to enter, and there was the window open. And I remember that with the director, I said, come on, he sees that the window is open. And the guy said, and the director said, Sven Erik Vektov, yeah, of course. So we need to show that he must have a doubt, that he says, was it open or was it closed? So we came up with a little thing where I was walking in to make sure that everything was okay. And then I see the window, and then I go. And just this movement of the head towards the audience, people would laugh. And I tell you, I was so happy, because you realize that you really, when people are following you and you are honest and you are trying to portray somebody honestly, they are with you. And so even a stupid gesture with your head, a movement, you know, you connect with them. And this is, I tell you, forget alcohol, forget drugs. That's the best thing you can possibly have.
I love that so much. I don't fully agree.
Sorry, I've been honest.
That connection. No, it's good. Be honest. I love it. I really do love it.
But you know, when people say, do you drink or do you, I'm like, no, I go to the opera, I perform. That's much better than any alcohol, any drug. It just, I don't need it. I don't need that.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh, Luca, that's so fabulous. And I know that you mentioned a little while ago that when you first come out of conservatoire, that's when the work really starts. And I'm wondering, have you found to have any obstacles during your career as you've gone on? What has been the biggest one that you've had to face?
Oh, one, I would say there is one major thing that I always struggle with, which is fighting preconception. This has been a crusade for me, because it's very hard to convince people that you are interested in doing certain things when people have a specific idea about you. And this is really, really exhausting from my part, and tiring, because you know, I'm Italian, therefore people sees you as an Italian bass baritone, wants to sing Italian, maybe French. But when I said I would like to sing leader, everybody goes, oh my God, forget it. An Italian singing songs, never. You know, I can sing Mamma son tanto felice, but God forbid that I wanted to sing, you know, something serious like Schubert or Liszt or Beethoven or Mendelssohn. Forget it. And for example, I am a huge you know, fan of concert work, and this is also has been very hard to convince people that for me, Brahms' Requiem is as good, if not even better, than Giuseppe Verdi's Requiem. You know, there are different pieces of music, but you know, but to make sure that people understand that this is what I want to do, it's really has been a huge struggle, because I never wanted to you know, limit myself. I never wanted to say this is the only repertoire I want to sing, because I find the repertoire is so amazing, and the challenges that every different repertoire has for a singer are so beautiful that you have to do it. You have to challenge yourself, because otherwise our life as a musician becomes very boring and very repetitive. And I think it's nice when you try different repertoires, and then you say, okay, this I really like, but it's not for me. But this is really challenging, but it's for me. And for example, I have done a world premiere to tell you, to actually convince somebody that I was interested in doing a world premiere was like, it took me years, and eventually I did it. And when I've done it, people were like, wow. And I'm like, I told you I can do it. It's just, it really, that's, I find that is the worst part of our business. I wish people were much more open, also because this is something that happened in the last, I would say, 30, 40 years. Because 50, 60, and 70, they all sang everything. Hermann Prey, Bach, to Stravinsky, you know, all this Fischer Disco, Christopher Ludwig, Schwarzkopf, they all sang everything. And they never said, oh, this is not for you. No, because, you know, obviously what I have to offer is different than other people. And that's what the beauty is. And to just say, okay, you're good in 3 roles and these are the only roles, that gets really boring, in my opinion.
I can completely understand why, because you're so talented in so many other ways, and there's lots of different areas that you can express yourself as an artist, as you quite rightly said. Do you find the connection when you're doing a concert rather than an opera is the same in terms of connecting to a character? Do you find a character for each of those little pieces in the same way you do opera?
In a way, it's even more challenging, because, you know, when you do an opera and you say you have a costume and you have a set and you have the lighting, it does help you, because, you know, it helps you going into character, you know, to wear a very beautiful coat, that a leather coat that is black. You know, let's say that to be Mephistopheles or Mephisto or Don Giovanni with a coat like this, it puts you in the character. I mean, it's easy. But when you are, you know, in your suit and you have to sing a song that lasts 2.5 minutes, that talks about, you know, an image that all of a sudden comes to life, and it makes you remember of your love that is gone, and you say, I can't believe you're gone. And there is no lighting, and there is no set, and there is no costume, and it's just you, your pianist, the audience, and your voice. You really need to say, okay, let me make as many colors as I can. Let me try to, you know, give a color to an expression to every word, because I am naked here. And this is really, you know, pushes you to, you know, to use your voice to the extreme. And this is a challenge that I like. And it's really something that I love, and you know, doing concert and doing recitals allows you also to push the dynamic and the color, and you know, you know, you can explore dynamics and color to an extreme, because it's much easier, obviously, to make an incredibly soft piano in a recital hall than in a huge theater, you know, when you are at the end of the set with a lot of, you know, 60 or 70 people playing and in a huge space. So I think everybody, I always say that everybody should do this, because you become a better musician and you become a better singer.
I completely agree, and I think there's so much repertoire out there. I know Richard Stokes, his brain is full of such incredible leader that people know nothing about. So there is so much to explore. So I feel exactly the same on that subject. Now, I'm wondering, you do so much traveling, Luca, or previously, before this happened. And most opera singers, they have a really tough time with balancing professional life and personal life, whereas you take your wonderful 2 dogs, Lenny and Tristan, and your lovely wife with you all around the world. How does that work, and how much solace does it give you knowing that they're there and that you've got that piece of normality when you're doing the production?
Look, I'm lucky, because obviously Katrina, my wife, can work from anywhere as long as there is a good internet connection. She doesn't really care, right? Because she just needs a computer, a big screen, and an internet connection. So, and so I'm lucky, because not every partner has a work that can be done remotely, right? But you know, I like it because no matter where you go, no matter which city, no matter how beautiful or ugly your apartment is or your hotel is, it feels like home. And it's the best feeling. And you know, in a way, I never miss being home. I never did. I never did. You know, I know that colleagues say, "Oh, I can wait for this production to be over to go home." I never had that kind of feeling because I don't miss. I mean, I like to be at home because I have all my stuff, but I don't. Home for me is more a metaphysical place than actually a place. You know, as long as my wife is there and the doggies are there, and I get I have some kind of normal life after rehearsal, which is, you know, walking them, taking, you know, going to a park, you know, I'm happy. And so I am lucky I'm lucky. I'm really lucky because I don't, you know, it doesn't cost me traveling. And I have to tell you, I'm so happy that they can come with me because I am such an Italian mother that if I had to leave them in Vienna while I'm in San Francisco, it would be a disaster. You know, I mean, I tell you a little story. I was in Japan for 10 days for concert, and we left them with a friend of ours. And they have a great time because she has a lot of dogs, and she has a backyard, so it's fantastic. For them, it's heaven. For me, on the other hand, is hell. So I would keep saying, send me a photo, send me a video. Did I go to the bathroom? Did I eat? I mean, and eventually she said to me, I love you dearly, but you're turning into a typical Italian mother. And I'm like, oh, I know that, and it's the truth. You know, I need them more than they need me. So that's the truth, and I miss them much more than they miss me.
They do become part of your soul, don't they? It's so funny. How does the logistics, I'm just wondering very quickly, of the plane work? Do you have them in the hold?
You know, it requires a lot of organization. You need to, you know, a lot of times, like I'm driving until this train station and then there is a train, or I am, you know, taking the train, or I'm flying. You know, you just have to be organized, but it's not any more work or any less work than having a child. So you just have to say, you know, I look at the schedule, you know, what is possible. You know, if I go for a very long period, of course they're coming with me. And sometimes, you know, there are no flights, so you go, okay, I don't like this airline, so I'm flying with this airline to Barcelona, and then I drive to Madrid. You know, this is the stuff that you have to do because it's the only, you know, it's the only way. But I tell you, I never ever said, oh my God, it's so much work. Never, because it is so amazing to have them that it comes so natural to have them with me that I don't find that is actually, you know, work or I am exhausted, or I never said let's leave them behind because it's easier. Never. Absolutely never. And especially when there was the old deal with the UK, you know, that you could only, you know, the quarantine you know, we did stuff, my wife and I, that, you know, she would fly and I would fly to Brussels and then rent a car and take the tunnel and then come back, drop the car in Paris. I tell you, crazy. But, you know, but I mean, if you are in Glambo for 2.5 months, almost 3, not taking the dog is a criminal because they have the best time ever, right? Exactly.
Completely.
So, I mean,
Danielle Denise has obviously got lots of lovely doggies herself, so they've got lots of playmates.
You know, we were in a farm and they had such a good time. No, and so, you know, you do what you have to do, and that's the end of it.
Oh, it's so fantastic. They are such well-traveled dogs, and I love it. I absolutely love the story. So, Luca, I've come to my final question now. What piece of advice would you give to an 18-year-old Luca?
Now this oh, oh, sorry for the laugh. I would say, oh, there are so many things I could say to myself. Oh wow, this is I need therapy for this. I need so much therapy for this. You're gonna cut this out because I could tell myself so many things. I've made so many mistakes in my life, and I regret so many things, to be honest. And it's so that I wish I could, on so many occasions I wish I could turn back time and do it differently. The thing I could say to myself that I was never good at it, and I'm 45. I turned 45 the 8th of June, and I'm still stuck at it at 45. That this life is a journey. There is no destination, and so you better enjoy the journey, because you might get to the destination and be miserable and have regrets and say, I could have sung that better, I could have done this differently, and realize that you never enjoyed the journey. And I would say to myself, enjoy the now, because it's the only thing that freaking matters. There is no destination, because I realized that, when you start and you go, if I only could sing in Paris. And then you sing in Paris and you realize that it's exactly the same thing that you did before, but in a bigger theater with a bigger name. But the engagement, the commitment for me has always been the same. I have to tell you, I realized throughout my career that 3 people in Thomasville, Florida, and 4,000 people at the Met, if you do this job seriously, is exactly the same. Because as soon as you have an audience, you should say, this is the most important things of my life. Tell them something and engage with them. And it doesn't matter if there are 3 or 4,000. I never walked on stage thinking, doesn't matter how I sound today, I don't care. Never. And I tell you, I say to my wife, it's amazing to me, because my wife says to me, it's amazing to see you, because you come back and you are not happy with one note, and you come back to the dressing room and the world ends, and I want to kill myself. And I say, I don't know how to sing, and I am the worst artist on the planet, and I have to go back to square one. And this is great. This is great. But I really would have said to myself, enjoy the journey, because the journey is my career. And if you don't enjoy that, it's really a loss, because, there is no destination. I will stop worrying and I will stop my journey when I retire. Until then, it's the now that matters. It's really that. And I haven't learned it yet. I am a Gemini, and I am too, and I'm always worried about everything, and I'm always unhappy about everything, to actually enjoy the now. So let's do that. This life, I try to be the best if I can. The next life, when I come back, I will try to enjoy the now. I promise.
Oh, that is so wonderful, Luca. Thank you so much for your honesty and your openness, and you're a wonderful person as well as artist. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.